Must be state money.
You're good. Oh, there we are. We're good to go.
We're good to go. Well, good afternoon. Today's the 10th day of February. The time is 1:30. This is the Compass Executive Committee meeting. I'm going to ask Craig to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rod Beck.
Here.
Bree Bush. Trevor Chadwick.
Here.
Miranda Gold.
Here.
Rick Oglebone.
Here.
Dan Heyer.
Present.
Lindy Lindstrom. Mary May.
Here.
Matt Newton.
Here.
John Overton. Eric Phillips. Joe Steer.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chair, we have quorum.
Yeah, we have quorum. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is the approved minutes. I'll accept a motion on the consent agenda.
I will make that motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 3A. The January 13th minutes.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a couple of action items. The first action item is the recommended update Title VI plan. Our staff, Meg, is going to go through that for us. Go ahead, Meg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm standing behind you, so
Oh,
you can see the camera there. So as recipient of federal funds, all of Compass's programs and our activities must be fully compliant with Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and all related authorities and regulations. Compass last updated its Title VI plan in 2023 following our last certification review. As part of our memo of understanding with the Idaho Transportation Department, Compass committed to updating its Title VI plan moving forward on a 4-year cycle beginning this year in 2026. The Title VI plan summarizes the efforts Compass will make to ensure compliance with Title VI and all the related authorities and regulations. For the certification review in 2026, FHWA has advised that they will place emphasis on other areas and less emphasis on the Title VI civil rights compliance. So accordingly, our update this year is fairly minor. Regulatory references were brought up to date with the most current federal guidance, and the format was updated to mirror the format of the Idaho Transportation Department's Title VI plan. The complete plan is provided in your packet beginning on page 7, and I'm happy to answer questions on any part of it that you may have, but I won't read through it. We are asking for your action today to recommend the updated Title VI plan to the Compass Board for approval. With that, I stand for any questions.
Any questions just for Meg? Okay, all right. All right, so the action item is to recommend to the board to approve the update to Title VI. Is there a motion?
I move that we makes recommendation to update Title VI.
We're recommending to the board.
To the board. Sure. Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, the motion is to recommend the board approve the updates to our Title VI plan. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Are there any opposed? None opposed? Unanimous.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we have a status update. Craig's going to give us the Idaho legislative session update, and he has at least 1 hour to do it.
I can get through half of it in the next hour, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Again, we're gonna get some slides up real quickly here. So just so everyone notes too, I've put this under action items instead of discussion items so that you can, if you choose to, instruct taking a position or a recommendation or something. You can provide direction with a vote instead of just having discussion and leaving it entirely up to me to interpret what that discussion means. So with that, just want to briefly go through. Can we minimize the bottom bar?
This.
Yeah, just the bottom bar will be visible, but I don't know if we can minimize the bottom. But okay, thanks. And make sure if you're online, you have a question, speak up or raise your hand as we're going through so we can catch that. So the first couple of slides are just sort of updating from an ITD presentation that they gave to their board about 2 weeks ago. So as most of you know, the governor's budget proposes a reduction, actually, an elimination for fiscal year 27 of the transfer that's been coming from the Strategic Initiative Fund, and instead, or not instead, and also a reduction for fiscal year 26, a holdback of the fiscal year 26 funds. And so this is a screenshot from the packet that the IT board was given, just so you can see a sense of the state's revenue sources and where some of these impacts come from. And most of the state's money is protected, but a lot of it does under the legislative, legislative review and process. And so the legislature is currently considering no additional funds for TECM, which would mean it would hold at the 80 million if that proposal were to go through. And there would be some pretty significant implications from that I'll unpack with the next slide. But it would basically mean that the 80 million that's currently allowed to, or currently going to TECM, is all committed to bonding, to debt service on existing bonds. And this is, I'll unpack it a little bit as we get into the next slide, or committed to bond sales that are still expected this coming spring but haven't yet happened. And we at Compass haven't yet been able to get an exact clarification on that, but we expect to soon. And I'll also note, we're inviting ITD staff to potentially give a presentation similar to what they gave to their board at our February meeting. So our board can be fully up to date on that as well. Okay, so and then like I noted, the big effect for local governments from the potential elimination of the multi-year recurring 1-year transfers. I'm not sure exactly what to call them, but the state's been giving a 1-year transfer from the strategic fund, but they've been doing that consistently now for the past, I think, 4 years. And so with that going away, there's a change to what local agencies would see, because 40% of those dollars go to local agencies or distributed through the highway distribution account. So that would carry some transfer. I'm working on being able to calculate what that means for all of your agencies, but we don't have that yet. We're going to work with LTAC to get that number. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and advance now, and this is the one. I want to emphasize, this is our interpretation. This is Compass staff interpretation of what we heard at the IT board meeting. So basically, the shift, the proposal that's on the table right now, because ITD would not have funds available to add more debt commitment to the TECM program. Basically, they would be stopping for at least a year new projects initiating under TECM. So what this slide is showing, the dollar amounts are construction dollars only. There are some smaller amounts that we're not showing, if it's a million or a couple million for design phases or something like that. We're not showing that. Now, what we do know directly from ITD is projects in fiscal year 27 and 28, if this proposal goes through the legislature as it stands right now, would all be delayed at least a year, and some of them longer than that. The fiscal year 26 projects, and this is, I'm also just showing the ones in our area and not all the statewide ripple and effects of all of this. But the ones in our region for fiscal year 26, the 2026 Middleton to Star, they're still saying it's going. We can't confirm in our access to software and to their systems that it's actually obligated or bonded yet, but they're still saying that that bond is either happening or has happened, but the project just hasn't been updated in the system yet. So we're saying for now, that project is continuing, but the 44 Starred State Highway 16 project would shift a year, at least a year, maybe longer. And then the rest you can just see would continue, those shifts would ripple through because the state, as ITD, would not have the budget authority to continue to advance their projects. So obviously implications that affect our TIP as we're going through and making sure that we're unpacking and understanding and able to describe to the board and the executive committee what the impacts of proposed legislation and budget cuts would look like. So that's kind of it on the state financial picture as it seems to most directly affect us. And I think we could pause if we want to discuss any of these.
Okay. Any discussion?
I already had my discussion prior.
Okay.
I'm a little frustrated, quite honestly.
I'm very frustrated.
Who's not?
A number of issues.
Well, that 44 project is the one that frustrates me more than anything. You're gonna hold back $17 million to finish something that is a huge problem in our region.
And I could also
For a
just
1 mile segment.
And as I could note too, I've been spending a lot of time recently unpacking sort of history behind State Highway 16 and the sequencing of what the board approved and when. And that was one of the ones that, you know, was critical to the success of State Highway 16 as well. And so we're certainly monitoring. And I do want to emphasize these, I've got this labeled accurately. These are the Compass anticipated. This is us interpreting what they told their board to specifically address our projects. They did not go to their board and say, we will be delaying, you know, the 44 project to an out year. Their board is still in the process of figuring out what they're going to do. But the situation is such that they won't, as it stands now, they won't be able to bond this year anyway. And so the 27 projects would all end up having to get pushed out a little bit until they're able to generate the revenue. Okay. So that brings me to the next item that I wanted to discuss, and that's advancing I've shared with all of the board members a draft of a commentary piece that I've prepared that basically acknowledges the state's, it's intended to acknowledge the state's fiscal situation, but try to leverage that into an ongoing discussion about establishing a permanent revenue source or a long-term revenue solution for both ITD and for local agencies for transportation funding as well. And so, that's been reviewed. I think most of the folks on the board have reviewed it. I've gotten a lot of feedback and made a few little tweaks and edits to try to accommodate that, but there's been pretty much general support for the theme of the letter. So the question that I would have is, I guess I would seek either a board member or multiple board members to be the official authors of that draft as we submit it for publication somewhere, or get sort of the okay for me to go ahead and proceed and put it out under my name as my submission for a commentary piece. But I think it accurately reflects our agency priorities and the current situation that we're in right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to, Craig, sorry,
Yes.
Chair.
Go ahead.
When was that commentary sent?
It was sent with the invitations to the legislative reception.
Gotcha, okay.
So we have it, and I have copies as well, if folks want to look at it, and we could bring it up, I think, online if we needed to. We could bring up the draft online as well to show folks online too.
That's a talking point, you said?
It's not the talking,
No.
not the talking points, but the first appointment for the reception had that as a draft. As a document attached to the invite. And Amy's handing it around right now, so I don't want anyone eyes to strain too much. It's the same one that I shared with you.
Okay, gotcha.
And just so everyone knows too, this is the first time for me through this cycle, through this process with the legislature and this group as well as the board, and so how I'm handling it is what seems to make the most sense to me, but open to procedural other options as well. In the past, we have submitted, my predecessor submitted, I think one op-ed a few years ago, and then we've had board members, the chair, usually, or sometimes the officers as a group have submitted commentary pieces relating to Compass schools.
Chair, great. I have a question on the, you mentioned, it's the top paragraph on that page, new permanent transportation revenue streams. Can you explain what ideas, and thanks for being patient with me, being new, what new permanent transportation revenue streams are you wanting to identify as opposed to just increasing existing revenue streams? Or is there a distinction with the new permanent revenue streams as opposed to increasing existing revenue streams?
As I try to get this to a final edit,
Go ahead.
if I could try to get this to a final edit, that's something that could be tweaked, but new permanent ones, probably the starting point would be Boise State study from I think 2020 that listed a number of potential revenue options for the state to consider. But I'd also note that I intentionally left it open, but the one thing was the permanence of it that we were trying to emphasize, so that I'm trying to emphasize in the draft is that we want to have fits and not just something that every year we sort of have to revisit. The point around that is that it takes that long-term planning, the ability to sort of forecast revenue in the long run in order to really keep projects on track and hopefully help them move faster. One of the other points I've been making through other presentations has been most of the delays in projects they're almost exclusively because of funding and waiting for funding to be identified or approved or something like that. And so this would probably also allow accelerating project delivery in the long run too.
Okay.
I do have a few more slides, but my question would be whether, the executive committee wants to have like the officers submit it or just me submit it, or anyone really feels powerfully and wants to do it. Be the face of it themselves. I'm fine doing it. I mean, just to be clear, I think that's a little bit of what you guys brought me on board for, but.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I have a question, the kind of tag on Rick's question. The Boise State study, what are some of the options? I don't know what that study is. Are we saying that these are something that could potentially happen, or is it a tax increase that has to do with the legislature? It's directed for Just highway revenues or?
It would have to be something that the legislature would either approve a funding source or would approve a ballot initiative. So the Boise State one, let's see if we can, I wasn't anticipating going down this path, but do we have the slides from the December presentation at the legislative forum?
I can pull those up.
Give us just a moment and I've got a
It
table.
doesn't have to be right now.
But basically, yeah, it was that, yeah, I mean, we don't want to go into it with any, at least I don't envision something like this having like a specific recommendation. Like, we want to study alternatives, but we already know what we want. And so what this is starting with is it's a mix. Some of them, like I said, the state legislature would have to approve them. That could be like a fixed rate gas tax increase or something like that. It could be, and probably it's not just one solution, to tell you the truth, but it could be allowing tolled HOV lanes or something like that. It could be and then there could be something like local option gas tax. I think I mentioned during the interview process with at least a couple of you. One of the things I worked on in Las Vegas was a local option gas tax. So slide way down. I don't want to try to go through the whole deck, but there's one slide that has a table summarizing some of these options. Sorry, I didn't make you guys sit through a lot of these images again, since most of you were at the legislative thing in December.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a question, just to clarify, when Craig talks about submitting the letter, where is that to?
We'd seek.
That'd be a good question.
Yeah, so we'd seek to get it published in one of the papers around the region. So I'd say Statesman, Capital Press, maybe in Boise Dev, something like that, but just to get the message out.
Get the conversation. Chime in real quick.
So like an op-ed?
Yes, it would be a guest opinion.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gold and Mayor Steer, I emailed you a copy of the document that Craig was talking about. Councilmember Halliburton and I believe somebody else just jumped on as well. I will email that to you also just momentarily. Also, just historically, what we have done with those is submit them both to the Idaho Press and the Idaho Statesman concurrently. Mayor Phillips. Is that who just Mayor Phillips? I will send that to you as well. Thank you.
And I'm
What's on the chat?
keep going. Let me get through. We weren't quite there yet. Look at the table. Was this one. So these are the alternatives. The top set are ones that were from that Idaho Policy Institute report from a few years ago. The ones that are also on the bottom are just other pieces that I just know of from experience. So again, not recommending and not mentioning any of these in specific in the commentary piece in the op-ed, but there are a bunch of different options that are potentially things that could apply to help address this.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I think to get the conversation started, like you indicated, and you've put this together and you're looking at an op-ed type piece, I think it would be totally acceptable to have you put that out, get that conversation started. And then when we drill down and get a little bit more specific and want to target certain legislators, et cetera, then I think we can add a little bit more heft with some individual members from the executive board. That would be my.
Sheriff, that's a motion, it's seconded.
Well, I'd like to have a discussion.
Now we can have a
Well-
discussion. Sorry,
That's not a
I'm not the
motion,
chair.
that there's one sound discussion.
I think a little bit differently. I think there should be a combination of both him and the executive board that's on that letter, so it's more powerful. Saying it's coming from regional leaders and the Compass team. Personally,
For the op-ed.
for this op-ed, right? That's what you're asking on here. Saying that it's just like we're doing with the TVP on a regional thing. It's no different. We need to get more
He could state
vocal.
that. Do you mean like stated in the
No, it's
letter
on the
of
bottom.
everybody?
It's everybody's name on the bottom that's representative, what city they're from and stuff. Or organization, it's more impactful, I think, that way. Right? Personally. I think we're past the time of being individual focused and we need to be more collaborative on a regional scale on everything. Because we are failing our state miserably on all levels. And transportation is one of them, and other parts of this are others. And we just gotta get more vocal and not let the heads of the state control the problems or create the problems that we have, that we're all faced with trying to fix. And we need to be more vocal together. Sorry, that's just my opinion.
No, I'm not married to either one. I was just thinking guest commentary, guest singular. And then a mention of us, but if we're gonna do it rather than onesies, twosies, we should probably have the executive board behind it.
I mean, I could say it on behalf of the executive board consisting of so and so and so and so, or we could just have everyone listed as an author, however.
However, I just think the more collaborative the books, the better.
Sure.
I granted it is collaborative, but most people outside that are gonna read this don't have a clue what Compass is. But they will see that, oh, City of Eagle, whatever that is, City of Nampa, Caldwell, Boise.
Oh, there she
everybody's
is
on
again.
that, right? Highway districts are on this.
Yeah, but nobody knows the Western Front.
That's it.
The Western Front. Just the thought.
They need the opportunity to get to know.
Mr. Chair, I have no objections to being included.
Yeah,
I just, I wanna be able to answer if someone asks me about specific things, so my question specific to the funding streams is if my name is attached and someone's like, so can you explain more about this? I at least need to be able to have an introductory conversation and then I could point them to you.
So-
Further.
I can put together some talking points that can back up any of the committee members, then if you get those questions.
And I also appreciate the help that it's more soft ass, we're not like going all in on
No,
picking 4 of those and saying we're advocating specifically, we're just saying that there's an existing deficiency and there needs to be more proactive.
It's an opportunity to build on this. I mean, frankly, conditions have changed quite a bit since that study was completed. And we did play a role in that. We were one of the named agencies with that one. And frankly, I think this is something that we can probably count on support from all of those same stakeholders again in trying to at least get another study process underway. And who knows exactly what form, if it officially comes from the legislature or whether some other thing happens to make it happen. But I do think it's important that we.
I mean, that's a good point. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go ahead.
I think even a legislative committee on a statewide level that looks at this, because it's not a Treasure Valley thing, it's a statewide issue. Right? And I think that's a good idea. To put together on the legislative side somehow, I guess somebody responds to that, like we did the affordable housing thing this last year and stuff. Look for solutions.
Mr. Chair, I also agree, and I agree with that. I would not have a problem with my name being attached as well. I think, I like the general overall letter is to direct the state people to understand that to get through this problem, we're gonna need a reliable long-term funding option. Something that's reliable and it's long-term. We're not bouncing around. We're not trying to finance something on supplemental levies or whatever. They're at the whim of the border in case they go through. We have to get ahead of this. So I like the general that we're not going to get this either. So.
Okay, any other discussion?
Well, and I'm not married to either one, but I'd be happy to support that too. But I think we need to drill it down as well, not just rely on Idaho Press or the Statesman. If we're gonna put something together like this and put our names on it, then it needs to go to the appropriate committees, legislators, people we know, etc. So.
And if I could, Chair, our lobbyists will help with that process quite a bit as well. They're kind of standing by on what to do with it. They've reviewed it and have made suggestions as well to help make it something that they think would be a bit more palatable. And so they're ready to help with that too. Super.
Okay, any other discussion? Well,
I mean, do you really have to have a motion on this, or you have a direction?
So
We don't have to, well, could have a motion, but
yeah, I mean,
actually.
I guess the real question is whether we want to do it with everyone's name on, like, as authors, or whether you want me to add something, it's like on behalf of the Compass Executive Committee consisting of so and so and so and so. Any of those options are fine with me.
Or does the Compass Executive Committee act outside of the Compass Committee?
I'm gonna defer to the folks who know the history around how we've done this.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know if the Executive Committee has a lot of swing, but it's the whole Compass Committee that board.
The whole board.
The whole
the-
And if we wanted to do that, we could set up something to have the board as a whole approve it, but I also think we could start the dialogue now.
Yeah.
With the commentary piece, and then strategically the board could weigh in. Second message, reinforcing
You'd be the first, you'd get it out with
something like,
yours, yeah,
something like that.
kind of like mine.
But there are other means, if you wanna appeal to about 20% of the population, just the two papers. Cause that's about how many reads, gets the papers or subscribes to.
But I think this, we could take this, that's the starting point, and we can put it on our own social media channels and all that and get it out, right? But I think that's just a starting point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been suggested that we talk of, that we try to get on some of the other shows. I mean, I know that, you guys, a couple of you were on the radio yesterday talking about, talking about some issues. There are other ways to message it
A bunch.
as well that we can explore. But as long as I feel like the executive committee's given me the go ahead on it, then I feel like we can start trying to unpack all the different ways that we can get the message out and make sure people hear the dialogue.
All right.
You want to take a motion then to get the authorize our executive director, Mr. Chairman, to move forward and how we discussed and unpack this thing?
I don't know if that takes a motion or
I'll
not.
second it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so if we,
Second.
It is listed as an action item now, but yeah,
Yeah, what,
the staff would want to know exactly what that is, or whether,
what is the direct?
I think you move forward with how you have written this, provide us with some talking points. Put on your, this is my motions probably, I'll make a
Okay.
motion. That you send this out as you discussed with the Compass Executive Board on here, list of the names. And provide us with the talking points as what Mayor Hoglund was asking about. To be able to talk to this.
Let's look at that.
All right,
Is that clear enough? Okay. Rick?
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. Everybody understand the motion? And the second, the motion is moved and seconded. Okay, so we all understand what the motion is? Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I'm not actually quite clear on the motion. I was having a hard time tracking the discussion versus the motion. So the motion is just for Craig to provide talking points to the board or to the executive committee.
That's one of the items. The motion is for Craig to include in his piece that the executive committee is supportive of this opinion, correct?
And provide the talking
And
points.
provide the talking points to us.
Yes.
and if I could, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
What I will do, just to confirm everyone's comfort level, is I will prepare the talking points and get those distributed. And offer an opportunity for feedback if any of you read those talking points and then have concern with something. Also, I have been working, the draft doesn't reflect some of the latest, there's a few minor revisions, and then I would also want to make sure I get the language right. For that on behalf of the executive committee piece. So I'll add all of that and then recirculate.
You'll recirculate to all the board, all the executive board first.
Correct, to the executive, yeah, but I will operate under the assumption that pending. Suggested edits, revisions, or anything like that, I'm okay to release this. I'll probably aim for the end of the week. And I'll get it to everyone this afternoon or tomorrow, talking points in the revised version.
Is that clear with everybody? Did you get your answer, your questions?
Yep. Yep, good.
Okay, everybody else got any answers or any questions you may have about the motion? And Craig said he'll get the documents to us by the end of the week.
I'll get them, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'll get them to you by midday tomorrow at the latest.
Okay, and then we'll have 3 or 4 days to review them and get back with you with any context or agenda.
Right.
Is that clear?
Yep.
Crystal
Crystal.
clear. Okay, well, you know what the motion is. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody's opposed. Motion carries. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, now into what might be a bit more normal. I'm not sure. So one of the things I'll do during the executive committee meetings also is just update on sort of key legislation that we're seeing and any recommendations to give an opportunity. And keep in mind, these are recommended positions. We're gonna hide that, I guess, but anyway, there is as of I think as of Friday, and I don't think anything changed yesterday. There is one bill that I recommend that Compass would actively support, and that I interpret that to mean a letter, and we kind of tell the lobbyists that we're supporting it. And that's the one that would change the thresholds for the STAR program from so just to remind everyone, I'm going to try to do the simplest interpretation of the STAR program that I can, but that's the legislation that allows retail development to pay for infrastructure in the proximity of the development, transportation infrastructure in the proximity of the development, and then the state reimburses the property developer up to the threshold amount of the project cost out of sales tax revenue. And then the sales tax revenue then just starts going to the state again as soon as that has been repaid out of the sales tax revenue. It's not a perfect piece of legislation, it's not a perfect program, but it's been used 4 times in the state so far, including 3 in our region. What this language does is change a minimum cost project, change the minimum cost of the project from 6 million to 10 million, and the maximum cost for the qualified project from 35 million to 100 million.
May I ask?
Yes,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I don't know why we would support them raising that minimum. Makes it harder to get projects qualified. I understand the maximum of 100 is great. But I could get an intersection done with lights for $6 million on a commercial corner with a commercial component taking care of that. And then if we raise it to 10, that has to be that. Then we're trying to figure out what are they trying to do, add more lengths on that. And I've already ran into the situation at the 6 million mark being too high on a project. I could have got some stuff taken care of in STAR on the highway system outside of any other funding. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the purpose is of them raising that to 10 million to make it tougher or limit the scope of the projects that are being involved in here.
So anecdotally, if I can,
Yes,
anecdotally, I have, it's been my impression that the concern around those numbers came from the state, with there being a ton of these projects to start tracking.
But isn't our job to try to find alternate sources of funding these? I mean, this to me goes back to this and others of alternate sources of funding. We're restricting ourselves by going higher.
To me, it falls in the growth pays for growth.
Right.
Framework.
That's just my concerns with that whole thing. I mean, we're trying to find ways of funding stuff. We're making it tougher to fund stuff because the state's afraid to track things. Right, that could get funded outside of the normal process.
I do want to emphasize that that's, one of those I hear in conversations as opposed to like an official position that I've.
No, I get it, but it makes sense, right? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if the minimum. What the administrative burden is on tracking this, so if they have a minimum threshold to say that. It needs to fall at least within this minimum for the administration of this. I don't know how complex the administration is. But if it's too low and there's a higher number, the argument we get, that's why this exists, to help, but I know sometimes when you have minimum thresholds on. Everything on transportation stuff, even to economic incentives for businesses, they're designed in such a way it usually only benefits larger corporations. And I hear all the time from middle scale mom and pop shops that there's no way they meet the criteria for economic incentives. When I talk to the legislature, they say, well, it'd be a nightmare to administer for, because you would have high volume of small usage, and but there is a cynicism sometimes. I'm not saying that that's the intent here, but I'm often told that there's just an administrative burden, and the minimum thresholds are to ensure that it's worth the administrative burden of administering and facilitating.
Does the statement say anything on that?
I don't have a draft of. Oh, and the purpose.
Are those six?
I don't think I have a copy of the purpose statement with me right now.
Yeah, 5806.
Yeah.
All right, that's just my comments. Anyway.
Well, I mean, what
Take
we,
it for what
what
it's
we,
worth, the experience of dealing with this and what I could have got done. I
and
could have probably got Highway 44 done at the time.
what we could
That'll
also
delay it
do
now.
is support the language, but say, you know, we would also be supportive of maintaining the threshold, the floor threshold 6 million, or examining ways to lower it. That's what the position that we wanted to take. Because someone is opening the door on the overall concept.
Well, and they may have the rationale for the.
Right, I can reach out.
Increasing, because you need to talk to the sponsors and find out what the rationale is for it. I mean, they may have the administrative rationale like Mayor. Like Boom said, that could be it. I mean, because it is complicated. And it does take some administration, because the retailer who collects the sales tax and then it's passed on to them for the increase for the improvement. So it is a complex thing to do. And there may have some reasons to do it, that we need to find that out before we can kind of solve the issue.
It's kind of my impression that this was primarily initiated from an outside stakeholder group. And so I'm happy to reach out to them and try to.
Let's go on to
See if
on
the logic.
on the Eagle project.
Well, I'd be interested to know the projects they did, what the costs were of those specifically.
They've all been at the higher level. They've all been in the 35.
30,
They've all been coming up at the high end of the range. The Costco that was on 44.
on 2026.
Sorry, on 2026, right, yeah. Was at the higher level. It was at the higher end of the.
I mean, they even make a comment here in their fiscal note that addition of legislation allows the developer to pay the cost of infrastructure improvements associated with a new development, thereby saving state and local governments future transportation related expenditures. Furthermore, any reduction in sales tax revenue for the rebates should be offset by an increase of the new revenue from the development. But yet we're increasing the bottom threshold to make it harder to get some of these smaller projects done that would offset the cost. Yeah, it's just an interesting discussion anyway.
There must have been some reason, there's 3 or 4 of them have gone through, and the 6th must have been problematic or something from something. But like you said, we need to have more background.
Yeah.
Well, I'll reach out before we would put together a letter, then any kind of support position statement or anything.
Okay. Yep.
Next 2 are also pieces that have been introduced are currently in sitting at the transportation committee. The first one is addressing the 2 laws that passed late in the session last year that put a lot of restrictions on when and where pedestrian bicycle infrastructure can be spent or can be paid for. This language, just if you'll note who the sponsors are, this language has been reached through a lot of discussion and compromise in the off session. It essentially clarifies, it does 2 things. It changes what was a criminal penalty, and then it clarifies that federal funds can be used for pedestrian and bicycle projects, which, as long as they're eligible uses of the federal dollars, it's just clarifying that. It's not a sweeping change, or reversal of the laws that passed last year.
So it's not allowing local dollars to be spent and state dollars on it?
The local dollars, can be used as matching funds. But that's not specified in the legislation, and no changes to what the local and state restrictions would be.
Okay.
And this is just a support, not actively support, is my recommendation on this. It's really intended to be a corrective, a corrective bill. The next one is a bill that simplifies the language around the 60-40 split, state and local split from the highway distribution account allocations. So the current language is written to phase in the 60-40 over from its earlier varying formulations of different funding sources that brought it all up to 60-40. And so basically what this language does is it removes all of the years that are no longer applicable from the language. It's not it's not changing the 60-40 formula. It's just taking out the languages from when that formula was 62-38 for 1 year, and then 61-39 for another year. It just makes it 60-40. It shortens the language a lot, and it's another one that I think we can support. But there's no real reason to put any capital into it. But we can, if the lobbyist knows that we're supporting it, if it comes up, that's what he can say.
Okay.
And then our screen here is hiding part of the text, but there is a bill that I think some of the folks in the room are familiar with. That will remove the 90% assessment limitation for new construction. Last I heard, it was pending introduction. There are other elements to that bill that I don't think are within Compass's stated priorities. There's a piece of the draft that's relating to changing the annual budget increase amount. Basically, the taxing authorities can go and follow.
Yeah, so right now it's a 90%, removing the 90%, going back to 100, moving the cap to 15%. There's some talks about that, and then using last year's levy rate versus the current year levy rate.
Right.
Which all in my opinion, supports let growth pay for itself concept, the whole thing, because that's what allows all those pieces allow it to pay for itself.
And that's what I was hoping to get the discussion about today. I think we can justify the 90%, remove the 90% from our adopted positions. It's open to the committee on whether we would want to support the whole thing or whether we would, we could write it. If we wrote a letter, and actively support to me means to write a letter and instruct the lobbyists, but we could, that can be done in such a way that we actively support one piece and don't talk to the other.
I think we need to
piece, or
support,
we support
I'm gonna be honest, we need to support the whole thing and have, honestly, and you can't have just one piece and have it be successful. It's not gonna be, it's not. And if we're truly gonna stand behind having growth pay for itself, you need to support the modifications that we're presenting for 389. And we have a meeting tomorrow morning with the sponsor and the House Rev Chair and Majority Leader Monks on this, and Redmond on another piece of this. So we need to figure, I guess, just let you guys know if we can get an idea of if we're going to support it or not, so we can utilize that tomorrow in our conversations.
And we don't even know if it's one bill or two bills.
It's going to be one bill.
So Chairman, just the one element, and for those of you not familiar, this is a partial fix adjustment to House Bill 389, which was passed in 21. It doesn't undo all elements. So we kind of left alone the expiring urban renewal. That still comes on at 80%. That's a battle for another day because NAMPA, we have some time. We do have an expiring urban renewal in 4 years, and so
We have one this year.
Wait, 30.
yeah.
$1 billion.
I think that might complicate the potential of the bill getting passed, just because there's a lot of people that love to hate on urban renewal. just from a strategic standpoint, I prefer to see kind of the hand that's dealt maybe next year or 2 years with what sort of legislate, but I understand if you have an expiring renewal right now, it's gonna come in at 80% added to your increment as opposed to the full. But that part's left alone, so the 90 to 100 is letting growth pay for itself. And the one component with Redmond being there that, you know, maybe it's outside of Compass's immediate purview is the homeowner's exemption. He has an interest, there is an interest I hear in the body to raise the homeowner's exemption. You know, a lot of people held their nose and voted for 389 because it raised the homeowner's exemption from 100 to 125,000. It also increased the circuit breaker, but it also created an eligibility limit. We're not touching those pieces, they stay mostly untouched. Although you could make the case the circuit breaker should also go out by some sort of inflationary amount, but then you're.
How much you wanna raise the homeowner's exemption?
I think 175 is a modest fair proposal. I heard Redmond was wanting to be 250, which is doubling. Just to be clear, it's 50% of your home up to this, so 250 doesn't mean if your house is worth 350, you're only paying 100,000, it's still gonna be at 50%. It's raising the top end. Every community is different, how the tax makeup is, but clearly when you raise the homeowner's exemption, you're shifting the burden to those who don't receive the homeowner's exemption. And so it can be trickier in other communities depending on what their mix is of residential.
It's been a gigantic shift for the last 5 years.
Yes, there has.
From residential to commercial. I mean.
Or the other way
commercial to
around,
residential.
yes. Yeah, the levy rates have plummeted because homes have gone up in value and commercial's gone up too, but not at the same pace. So
Anywhere near as much.
So in reality, this is gonna impact 197 cities, 44 counties, 120 fire districts. And the number of EMS districts that we have in this state to help stop the bleeding. And help move forward a little bit. It doesn't resolve the whole thing, but it helps us try to fund some of the critical stuff that we need to fund. That we're lacking here in the state, right? And having growth pay for itself, so that's. What we've been working for months,
yeah.
this thing.
We can't undo, so the levy right now has been artificially depressed.
Yep.
Because when we talk about the 90% new value, it's the valuation comes in at 100% for purposes of determining the levy rate. But the tax portion only comes in at 90% on the top part, which is the budget. The levy rate is your budget divided by your total tax value. So what we've gone through is 4 to 5 years of 100% of the assessed value rolling to the bottom line and only taking 90% of the tax revenue increment on the top line. And so that's created an additional deflation of the levy rate in a way that doesn't reflect what it would.
That was the intent of the bill.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And so there would be a slight increase, at least in Canyon County, to the levy rate with the homeowner's exemption, exempting, you'd be lowering that bottom line amount because you're exempting 70% of the homes are owner occupied. The levy rate would go up ever so slightly with this. Homeowners would see less tax burden. Non-homeowners would see a very slight increase, but it'd still be less, at least in Canyon County, than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Their taxes have come down because they benefited from the levy rate. So I'm sympathetic to the fact that the speaker, who represents Star in Middleton and part of Nampa, he says the poor people of Star and Middleton, it's mostly all residential, where are you gonna shift the taxes to? So I'm anticipating he would maybe mount some resistance to the homeowner's exemption going up because he feels that it would be punitive towards the non-homeowners. And the speaker, once in a while, he's selectively very compassionate towards people who rent in apartments. And this is one time he pulls that argument out of his bag and says those poor people renting apartments aren't going to be able to afford the tax increase. So I anticipate the speaker is going to hit up a lot of members and mount opposition. If the homeowner's exemption has to come out of the bill, this is part of why we're meeting tomorrow morning to kind of see what the political will is. I'm okay with letting that part slide and just taking the 90% to 100%. So I realize there's not a lot of leverage to get everything that ideally should justifiably be adjusted. So, but my hope is to get the package deal. The homeowner's exemption would also neutralize Moyle speaker saying that this is gonna be a tax increase when we can say all the homeowners would actually see a tax hike with this bill, which could be an attractive carrot
Right.
to the legislature, because they don't have a lot of appropriation money to fund through, what was it, 292, which was the way in which they appropriate credits to offset our property tax bill. They don't really have a lot of revenue to divvy back out through appropriation. So this costs the state nothing when they raise the homeowners exemption. It just adjusts the tax burden among the people paying the taxes at the local level. So, and so anyhow, yeah, that was a long.
But that tax that they shift from, they take sales tax and pay for those rebates that they give, and then that reduces everyone's revenue sharing.
Yeah, that's another conversation. You're not wrong, but other conversations. But anyhow, so whether Compass, and not to rebut Mayor Chadwick, I think you're being very careful in saying maybe the 90% to 100, but in some ways, maybe you only get that if these other things are potentially attached. So if it comes out in one bill, I don't know if Compass ever says we like that aspect, we're neutral on the other parts. I don't know, but it would be helpful if there was just support for the whole
thing.
product.
Well, I think there is going to be major pressure to increase that homeowner exemption, because when it was first,
Yeah.
on 125, up to 125, the average sale price is about 200,000.
Mhm.
It's not that now, it's
Mhm.
Ada County, it's 550.
If it stayed on an index, and this is another conversation, because it used to be indexed and then they fixed it at 100,000. It would be closer to 200 and something thousand right now in Canyon County. Oh, that's what the homeowners exemption would be if it was still on an index. So we're, states like Utah, I think it's like 50% homeowners exemption with no cap, and every state's a little bit different. We kind of have this 50%, but there's this cap. So, but every time your house goes up above, when you max out the homeowners exemption, then your tax liability increases on whatever that increased assessed value is. So I mean that's a bigger conversation about homeowners exemptions and how they work in different states, but the body might be interested. So I think Representative Redmond, I don't know, first time I'll meet him, was wanting to run a bill 250,000 homeowners exemption.
He was on the Affordable Housing Committee with me and stuff, and one of the co-chairs. And this is part of the affordable housing aspect that he wants to fix, and so.
Yeah, so what we're hoping, he'll be present tomorrow morning, is to see, is he willing to compromise on the 250 standalone bill and to fix something in this bill to get the homeowners exemption, but.
Yeah.
250, I think honestly might be really high, because that might shift things pretty wildly in some jurisdictions. The 175, I think. You could also put in there an escalator. That's another concept of having it be at 175 and then year 200, and then year 3, 225, year 4, and have like a 4-year, 5-year.
That's actually why they put an index on it.
Yeah.
And then you pulled off the index.
Because they want to debate this, they want to leverage this as a
They wanted
debate.
to leverage it,
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to keep it. And that's when the shift started occurring between
Yeah.
commercial and
Yes.
residential.
Yeah.
If I could, to try to reach a conclusion on this one, we can, if the committee instructs, we can support a bill, but then the talking points are just to the things that we know are directly related to the stuff that Compass itself does. But be supportive of the entire bill, rather than the way that I initially framed it, which was we support the 90% restriction. We could just say we support, HB, whatever. And the 90%, and then just have the next paragraph be the 90% causes these problems or challenges or something like that. And then that's basically the statement that we're making. So supporting the whole thing, but we don't want to leave we don't want to leave an opening where, I don't think we would ever want to support, we're not the kind of agency that would want to take a position that supports this part of something, but not these other two pieces of something. I don't think we'd want to do that. For what it's worth, that's a difficult tactic to make.
Mr. Chair,
Good.
when we started down this road, before, we looked at it as not putting too much in, and we were gonna do incremental bites with things that we thought would go through. So I think that's why that is a standalone on there. Those are our earlier discussions, not knowing what you have been involved in down in the state house.
So do you need motions on these things, or how are you doing it?
I don't think we need motion on this. I think it's pretty clear where
Okay.
we're headed.
And then the last one, I'll just note, there are some bills relating to the housing infrastructure question that we're hearing about, but we haven't yet seen. When they come out, we'll monitor and report back.
There's a lot of preemption stuff that the cities are not gonna support on that, just so you're aware.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Which is why I know that language that I've heard is just leading to closely monitor. And
it's interesting, some of that came out of our. They're using it out of the affordable housing thing, which is totally different than what the conversations were, which is kind of interesting. So.
okay,
Great, moving on.
here you can go take it.
You have more of the report you want to give?
No, that's, well,
You did a good job taking up the hour.
it wasn't me. If I could, Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
it
go
wasn't
ahead.
entirely me speaking during that.
No,
No, but I will. I
sorry.
do want to just give a real quick summary of the legislative reception. Really appreciate those who were there. We were really well represented from this group. We had eight Compass board members, 4 in this room. So really that was very well appreciated. 30 legislators attend, including the chair of transportation, chair of House Transportation, and vice chair of House Transportation. The House Majority Leader, Senate Vice Chair of their Transportation Committee. I mean, it was a really good group. Wade and Means chair was there as well. The other MPOs, they were there too. And it was well respected, well attended. So I've gotten nothing but positive feedback so far. With that, really appreciate everyone, and we plan on repeating it next year, getting it a bit better organized too. This one pulled off really well, but we can always do better.
Can I have a Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
On your legislative stuff, there's one more bill that I think you need to look out for. It's the one on the single highway distribution funding. The problem that we ran across with Highway District 4 handling my roads in Canyon County, the way the law is written, is 100% of the money, regardless of what side of it is going to ACHD. And so the cities is going to be running a bill, been working with Palmer on it, to allow that proportionate share that's on the Canyon County side. This impacts Eagle also for Boise and Jim County, where they're going into to be proportionally put into those entities to be used on those roadways. Because right now, all of it's going to ACHD, and no one knew this. It's not ACHD's fault, it's nobody's fault. It's just something we discovered when we went through some situations last year on the funding, that this was happening this way, and ITD confirmed that. And so there is a bill that's coming on that, just so you're aware to the future on this. So,
Thank you. I'll get the lobbyists. I'll make sure the lobbyists is looking forward as well.
All right. Anything else?
Legislative, nothing else. And
adjourn?
I have a brief for the discussion on the next item.
I have to withdraw. There's stuff going on at the city that.
Yeah.
Personally,
You done?
maybe.
Okay. Let me
Oh,
know.
We're being sued, and BCLU has a press conference at 3. So
Okay, well,
it's for the Wilder rate that happened. But,
okay.
yeah, we need to.
Good to see
Anyhow,
In the
yeah,
morning.
see you all. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, my
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, just real quick director report. This will just take a moment. I just want to let the executive committee know, Compass is going to be taking the lead on a build grant on behalf really of ITD. There's a restriction that they can only apply for 3. Any one entity can only apply for 3. So this will be taking the lead on the Southern Bypass build grant application for them. If that comes through, it's a $3 million grant. Most of it will channel to consultants and ITD, but it increases our odds by having us be able to continue.
Is that the one going through CUNA, going south? Oh,
Yeah, and primarily engineering. It's primarily to work out the engineering difficulties on alignment down there. We're actively participating in the broader study that they're doing on general connectivity in that part of Ada County. and a little bit in Canyon County too, but, I just want to let the board know we'll be talking about the build grant. That'll be one with Compass's name on the application.
Okay. Anything else?
I just wanna thank you guys. Good job. Everyone, yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Here.
Here, here. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll take the motion to adjourn.
So Chair, move we adjourn.
Okay, non-debatable, all in favor, say aye.
You know, all the non-debatable.
Well,
The,
I got.
Okay, just want to let you know, we
Have a